Every audience comes with sacred cows, beliefs, strategies, and tactics that are accepted by all and questioned by none. But then you come along, and your ideas, however valuable, threaten the status quo. So your audience gets all triggered, and those walls of resistance come up. Unless... Hi everyone, Matt Jones here, helping you give presentations that get people on board. As a speaker, you'll often encounter audiences with opposing points of view. So to get them to adopt your idea, just do this.
Drop your weapons!
It's okay that we're here.
It's okay that you're here. It's good.
You're relieved that we're here.
Thank goodness you're here. Welcome, guys.
Did she do that to us?
If that works for you, go ahead and watch another video. But if your Jedi mind tricks aren't really working for you, then keep watching. Because in this video, we'll look at 4 things that you can do to make your presentations more persuasive. Plus, examples from Dan Pink's TED Talk, The Puzzle of Motivation. Let's dive in. The first tactic is something I call match and move. When trying to persuade people, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is unwittingly positioning yourself as their opponent. If you immediately start bashing their sacred cows, you can expect a lot of pushback. If you want people to listen, you need them to like and trust you. And people tend to like and trust people like themselves. So, how do you get them on your side? Easy, by going over to theirs. Empathize with your audience. Put yourself in their shoes. Match their beliefs and behaviors. This way, you don't position yourself as their opponent, you position yourself as their ally. And when they realize that you're with them, they're more likely to stay with you as you guide them to your new realization. Look at how Dan Pink does this. After sharing a scientific finding that flies in the face of conventional wisdom, he immediately repositions himself as the ally, not the opponent. He defends the conventional wisdom. He resists the evidence to the contrary. And then he acknowledges it.
It took them, on average, 3.5 minutes longer. 3.5 minutes longer. Now, this makes no sense, right? I mean, I'm an American. I believe in free markets. That's not how it's supposed to work, right? If you want people to perform better, you reward them, right? Bonuses, commissions, their own reality show, incentivize them. That's how business works, but that's not happening here.
Remember, it's much easier for your audience to move with you than to move to you. So start where they are and go through that journey of discovery together. Match and move. The second persuasion tactic is to validate and update. Rather than disproving the idea altogether, acknowledge its utility in specific circumstances. After all, if it hadn't served any purpose, no one would have adopted it in the first place. So go ahead and validate the idea.
If-then rewards work really well for those sorts of tasks, where there's a simple set of rules and a clear destination to go to. Rewards, by their very nature, narrow our focus, concentrate the mind. That's why they work in so many cases. And so for tasks like this, a narrowed focus where you just see the goal right there, zoom straight ahead to it, they work really well. It's built entirely around these extrinsic motivators, around carrots and sticks. That's actually fine for many kinds of 20th century tasks.
Once you've validated the idea for specific circumstances, then you can show how it's incomplete.
But for 21st century tasks, that mechanistic reward and punishment approach often doesn't work and often does harm.
Then you can go on to provide the update.
And if we really want to get out of this economic mess, we need a whole new approach. The good news about all this is that the scientists who've been studying motivation have given us this new approach. It's an approach built much more around intrinsic motivation.
So you see, you don't have to completely destroy competing ideas. It's much better to show the extent to which you agree and then build on it with helpful ideas. Think yes and, validate and update. Persuasion tactic number 3 is what I like to call pre-buttal. In debate, when you want to argue against something that's already been said, that's called a rebuttal. But the problem is, you're being reactive. You have to wait for what they're going to say and then try to argue against it. But it's actually much easier and more effective when you anticipate what the opposition might say and then address it before they even get the chance to bring it up. That's what I call a preemptive rebuttal, a pre-buttal. And you actually see Eminem do this with great success in that final rap battle of the movie 8 Mile.
This guy ain't no motherfucking MC. I know everything he's about to say against me. I am white, I am a fucking punk. I do live in a trailer with my mom. But I know something about you. You went to Cranbrook, that's a private school. What's the matter, dog? You embarrassed? This guy's a gangster? His real name is Clarence. Here, tell these people something they don't know about me.
Now, when you give a presentation, your audience might not say anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with you. So you have to anticipate their skepticism and work that pre-buttal into your speech. Dan Pink anticipates that the audience might doubt the validity of the scientific studies that he shares. So before anyone can start thinking to themselves, oh, I bet he's cherry-picking his studies, he says,
What's interesting about this experiment is that it's not an aberration. This has been replicated over and over and over again for nearly 40 years. This is one of the most robust findings in social science and also one of the most ignored.
if you think your audience may question some of the things you're going to say, don't wait for the Q&A session at the end to handle objections. This will most likely derail your closing and put you on the defensive, which doesn't help your credibility. The much better solution is pre-buttal. And the fourth persuasion tactic I have for you is what I call the credibility chain. This is where you transfer credibility from the original source to yourself to the audience. Dan Pink starts with external credibility, the science from renowned experts and institutions. He then positions himself as a relative expert due to his own independent study and critical analysis of the science.
I spent the last couple of years looking at the science of human motivation, particularly the dynamics of extrinsic motivators and intrinsic motivators.
And he then says,
if you look at the science, there is a mismatch between what science knows and what business does.
Notice that he uses the phrase, if you look at the science. Now this implies that the audience, were they to conduct the same critical analysis themselves, they would naturally arrive at the same conclusions that Dan Pink himself is about to share. By transferring credibility down the chain from experts to the audience, he gives them confidence in their own judgment rather than asking them to just take his word for it. The credibility chain is so powerful because it gives your audience ownership of what you're telling them. So there you have it, 4 tactics to make your presentations more persuasive. Match and move, validate and update, pre-buttals, and the credibility chain. If you found this helpful, like the video and subscribe for more. And in part 3, we'll break down how Dan Pink closes his TED Talk like a boss. Stay tuned.